wherever we go. If you want to engineer something, if you want to manage something, if you want to be successful, it is not only that you manage yourself, you must be able to manage another 1,000 people. Another 1,000 people should be happening the way you think they should be happening. Only then you can run something of substance. When your own mind is not running the way you want it, the chances of anybody else doing what you want is remote, isn't it? Shall I tell you a story? Is it okay? Right now, you heard of Charles Darwin? Don't tell me I'm not biology student. So Charles Darwin, when he talked about evolution, he put this idea into the Western mind that life is capable of evolving beyond the framework of dimension that is created for that particular species. Whatever the boundaries for that species, that is not absolute boundary. A creature, if it strives, it will evolve beyond that. A donkey can become a giraffe. A pig can become an elephant, whatever. And a monkey, you know what happened to him. So this evolutionary process, he was born just 200 years ago. Last year was his 200th anniversary, I think. This is not new to our culture. Little over 15,000 years ago, Adi Yogi, a being of phenomenal proportions, appeared in the upper regions of Himalayas, and his condition was like this. If he sat still like this for months at a time. What is the great thing about sitting still? What you need to understand is, right now the physical process that you have as a body is a compulsive process. You're sitting on chairs, even there, you will see if you sit on the floor, if you sit like this, your body will tell you, this is not the most comfortable way to sit this way. 10 minutes you sit like this, then it'll tell you, this is not the way, sit this way. 10 minutes you sit like that, it'll tell you, no, that's not the way, this way. You try whichever way, within 10 minutes it'll tell you, this is not the way. Now that all of you are doing the staring practice on me, if I also sit here with unblinking eyes, I can very easily sit here for many hours. If I simply sit here like this, in another 15 minutes, there are people in the upper regions of the hall who will start slowly moving out. If I sit here for 1 hour, 50% of you will be gone. If I sit here for 2 hours, only 10% will be left. If I simply sit here like this for another 6-7 hours, maybe only 6-7 people will be left. Those ardent, I don't know, we will know who they are. Those ardent ones, we will find out who they are. Because what you call as a body is a compulsive process. If you sit here for another 1 hour, body says, want to drink something, okay, drink, supply. Then after some time it says, I want to shed. Okay, go and come back. Again it says this, then it says this. Something or the other, it's a compulsive process. Physical body is a compulsive process. So if somebody can just sit here for months on end, unmoving, one fundamental thing is, he has beaten the compulsiveness. Moving from a compulsive state of existence to a conscious state of existence is the biggest thing a human being can do. Is the biggest thing the monkey did to some extent. How a monkey became a human being is, from compulsive state, he became little more conscious, so we labeled you as Homo sapiens. It's only a label, don't believe all the things that Darwin said. If you look around and see, you will understand what I'm saying. From being an excessively compulsive being, the monkey, maybe it did not strive or maybe it did, who knows. Whichever way, it became little more conscious, so you're human. In your own humanity, you're fast asleep. If I do, you're not conscious. If I poke you, you'll come awake. Your consciousness is at that level. If I do this, you won't come awake, if I do this, you will come awake. Now you're sitting, awake, right? I cannot see most of you. So if somebody does, you're awake, you're alert and conscious to it. So this means you yourself as you exist, you can move from one level of consciousness to another level of consciousness. In sleep, you're in one level of consciousness. In wakefulness, you're another level of consciousness. These levels of consciousness can be pitched up, can be ramped up to higher and higher levels, where if you sit here, you can clearly see how the chapati is becoming a human being. The reason why this process is not naturally coming to most human beings is, they are just imitating what everybody else is doing. Imitation is not engineering, isn't it? On a certain day, in the year 1910, about a century ago, a man whose name was Topiwala was going from village to village selling hats in the tropical heat in India. On a hot afternoon, he was very tired, he came and sat under a tree, opened his meager lunch, packed lunch that he had, he ate it, and because he was tired, he just dozed off. After some time, he opened his eyes, he looked, all his hats were gone. He became distraught. He got up, looked all over the place, who took my hats, who took my hats? No sign of hats, gone. Completely distraught, ayyo, he looked up. There he saw a bunch of monkeys sitting with hats on. So he looked up and screamed at them. They screamed back at him. He picked up whatever he could and threw it at them. They picked up whatever they could and threw it back at him. Not knowing what to do, he abused them, they abused him in their own language. Not knowing what to do, out of sheer frustration, he took his own hat and flung it on the ground. All the monkeys took their hats and flung it on the ground. He picked up his hats and walked away and continued his business. 2011, January 23rd. Another Topiwala is going from village to village selling hats. He came and sat under a tree, opened his packed lunch, ate, promptly fell asleep, opened his eyes, hats were gone. He didn't look here and there, he looked straight up. A bunch of monkeys were sitting there with hats on. He got up and jived. They all jived. He made funny faces at them. They made funnier faces at him. He had all the fun he wanted to have with them. Then he took his hat and flung it on the ground. A baboon of a monkey came quickly down the tree, picked up the hat, walked up to him, gave a tight slap in his face and said, "You idiot, you think only you had a grandfather?" Because we are in this mode, we think this is knowledge. There is a certain value to the knowledge that's already been accumulated. We cannot discard it, which will mean going back to reinventing the wheel. But the most important thing for the youth is that knowledge is anyway there, but the most important thing is to look at everything fresh like nobody has ever looked at. You know what happened to me? Are you ready for one more story? That means you're awake. Because usually the moment I start once upon a time, lot of people think it's bedtime. Because that's the only time they heard a story in their lives. When I was just 3, 4 years of age, one thing that I realized was, I did not know anything. I did not know anything means I did not know anything at all. If someone gave me a glass of water, I do not know what water is. I simply stare at it for hours on end. I know if I drink water, it'll quench my thirst, that I know. But do you know what water is really? Do you know? He knows. Do you know what water really is? Does anybody know? Do you think anybody in this world knows what water is? Water is one thing that's freaking the scientific community. They cannot understand what water is because it's one of the few substances when you heat, it contracts when you heat it, it expands when you cool it. It is one of the few things which exists in all the three states of being solid, liquid and gaseous, and it's the very basis of our life. So I did not know what water is, I just stare. 3 hours, 4 hours, somebody gives me a glass of water to drink, I'm just staring at this. If I see a leaf, I'm staring 4 or 5 hours at a stretch. If I sit up in the bed in the night, I'm staring at the darkness for the whole night. So my dear father, being a physician, started thinking, I need psychiatric evaluation. My problem is, I don't know anything. When you do not know anything, you have to pay attention, isn't it? There is no other way. If you do not know what this is, you will naturally pay attention to it. Ah, this is a flower, finished. Flower is just a word, it is not the quality of this, isn't it? If you just say this is a flower and dismiss it, it's over in a moment. But if you look at it for the rest of your lifetime, you will still not know what it is. So I was just paying attention to everything, all I'm doing is staring most of the time. In this condition, they sent me to school. I went to the school and stared. The teacher comes and starts speaking something. Initially, I understood the words. After some time, I realized the teacher is only making noises. It is me, in my head, I am making up the meanings. See, right now, because you assume that you know English language, you're making up the meanings, not me. I am only making sounds, isn't it? Isn't it so? So, once I understood, I am the one who's making up meanings, I did not see any reason why I should be making up so many meanings in my head, so I stopped making meanings. So I just looked at the teacher and they were making going on and on. It looked really amusing and funny, so a smile spread on my face. I was still staring but with a smile on my face. I was very amused, but they were not amused. Then after some time, I wouldn't even hear the sound. I could see all kinds of patterns spewing out of his mouth. I'm just looking like this. After some time, I'm not even seeing the physical form of the teacher, I'm seeing all kinds of things. I know everything about the teacher. It is just that I don't know what he's talking. Nobody has ever paid him the kind of attention that I'm paying him. I am paying absolute attention to him. No one has ever paid him that kind of attention, but it is just that I don't hear what he's talking. So, last year about 2009. This school where I studied more than 40 years ago, they said it is their 125th alumni meeting, 125th anniversary of the school, and they're inviting all the alumni to come and they wanted me to come and address this gathering. I said, why me? Because I was not just a not good student, I was not even a student. Why me? They said, no, our school has produced ministers, our school has produced cricket stars, our school has produced cinema stars, so many kinds of people we have done, but you are the only mystic, so you must come. So I said, okay. They didn't give me much option, so I went. So I went and stood in that quadrangle. You are living in a wonderful campus, fortunate for you. So I looked at the same oppressive buildings 40 years ago, the same things. So I looked around and suddenly remembered in this particular classroom what happened. I was in my 8th standard, that means I must have been around 12 years of age. And as usual, I'm paying attention to the teacher, not to his teaching, just to the teacher. And he's trying to get a response from me. I wouldn't say a word for many days because I'm paying attention to everything. Where is the time to speak? Just about anything, whether it's an insect or a dot on the wall, I'm just gaping at it all the time. So teacher is quite an interesting subject. I'm just watching him and he's trying to get a response from me. And 35–40 minutes he couldn't get a response from me, so he came and physically shook me like this and said, what are you? What are you? You're either the devil or the divine. I think you are the former. He thought I was the devil. Now I did not feel insulted, I did not feel offended by this. All these days I had this problem that I did not know anything. I did not know what's this, what is that, what is that, what is that, I did not know anything. I thought this was one stable entity. Suddenly this man confused me about this also. Now I did not know whether I am divine or devil or what nonsense I am. Suddenly it just freaked me out. This one thing was saying, oh, this is me, I do not know what's this, what's that, what's that. Now I did not know what's this. So, this started off a whole moment in my head. It became a real… So, I was still staring, but started staring at me, myself. So, I closed my eyes and started staring. So, initially it started with hours, minutes, hours, and it went into days where I'm just closing my eyes and simply still same staring, but I changed the direction. And that was a dimensional shift in my life. People who were thinking that I need psychiatric evaluation started talking, who is becoming a yogi. And that is all the difference, that is a huge difference. The moment you pay attention to this one, substantial attention to this one, there is nothing that will not yield to you in the existence because that which you refer to as the source of creation, whatever that is functioning here, otherwise chapati cannot become a human being, isn't it? Yes? That level of intelligence, that level of competence, which is necessary to make a chapati into a human being, is the same level of intelligence and competence necessary to put an atom together. Once you have access to that, suddenly it's a different world. Suddenly you are a different phenomena by itself. And every human being is capable of this. It is just that they're all hat sellers. They think life has already been done by somebody. My father did it life, I don't have to look at it once again. It is not so. It is very, very important that the most important thing is, today, I keep addressing lots of business community across the world. What I find is, My attention span, I don't have an attention span is become like a qualification. Your ability to pay attention is the key to how deep you can go into something, isn't it? Whatever that something is. Whether this or that, if you want to know something, how profound is your attention is how deep you will sink into it. How profound is your attention is how much access you get into it. And if you are willing to pay attention, there is nothing in the whole existence which will not yield. Human consciousness is such, if you pay enough attention, the whole existence has to yield, there is no other way.